Story 1. LCD sound system at Red Rocks in 2016. We were up pretty high for seating and watched a thunderstorm roll in across the landscape in the distance. Got to see the show and safely watch lightning strike in the background. One of the most beautiful things I have ever seen. An LCD sound system was a force of nature in and of themselves that night. Story 2. Lamb of God. Door opened for them. Got soaked in blood and guts. Was tossed over the front barrier while crowd surfing and landed on a security guard. Got my glasses broken in a mosh pit and lost my hearing for a few days. Best show I have ever been to. Story 3. The most memorable concert for me, unfortunately, was the worst I've ever been to. Kanye West at a music festival in Colorado. Started his show 1 hour late. Played for 30 minutes. He was the main headliner for the festival, last show of the night, and the whole festival was supposed to play well into the night. He literally goaded the 90% white crowd into singing along the N-word with him in the song Gold Digger. He briefly stopped, told the crowd to sing along with this chorus with him, and pointed the microphone at the crowd during. Now I ain't saying she's a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke N-word. The crowd didn't want to, clearly, but he kept telling them to. He then got mad at the mostly white crowd for doing what he demanded them to do and stormed off the stage after 30 minutes. Worst, dumbest concert of my life, and I will never forget it. Story 4. Honestly impossible to narrow it down to one. But here's the very top. Roger Waters' The Wall. Mind-blowing performance of a perfect record. They build a wall during the set, then part of it opens for an acoustic set. They crash a plane into it and there's a giant marionette balloon, etc. Unbelievable show. 9-inch nails, lights in the sky tour. Craziest light rigs I have ever seen, with these LED fences on stage so light moved around them, rained on them, etc. It was amazing. Justice at Life is beautiful. About the best electronic set I could imagine with a wild light rig. Tool at the Gorge. Not as crazy as the others in terms of an amazing light rig or singular production. But Tool played a perfect set, over 2 hours, at the most beautiful concert venue on the planet. If you haven't been to the Gorge in Eastern Washington, add it to your bucket list. Sublime place for a show. Story 5. Pantera, Santiago de Chile, 1998. Probably the wildest thing I went through in my late teens. And then the show that Santana did during 2009, it was the first concert I invited my dad to. Story 6. Radiohead, late August 2001 at Liberty State Park in New Jersey, right across from Lower Manhattan. End of the Kid A and Amnesiac tour, went with my 2 best friends and we made it to the front row. They played a stunning set and came out and did True Love Waits during the encore, which was really special. A photographer came out to take a picture of the band before the encore with the entire audience in the background. 6 months later, I saw a poster for the live extended play at a record store with me and my friends in the front row. We stayed a bit after the show to avoid going home, tried to meet the band, and looked at Lower Manhattan from the other side of the harbor. 3 weeks later, we were in our first weeks of college and the towers came down. Real end of an era in so many ways. Story 7. Prince Purple Rain Tour Superdome. He was the #1 artist in America at the time, and the crowd was totally into it. Fantastic show. Depeche Mode World Violation Tour Houston. They played at the Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion, translation, outside. We were melting. The band was melting. Nobody cared. Story 8. The first time I saw Radiohead, I got to the very front for the whole show. Or the time I saw Radiohead and went backstage for free. Story 9. Judas Priest, Motorhead, Heaven and Hell, and Testament all in the same concert. It was incredible even though they were all pretty old. Still put on an amazing show. Story 10. Michael Jackson Tour. This was in the 1980s and the arena was packed. I was in the nosebleed seats but had a ball. And it was the first show my parents did not bring me to. My mom and her friend waited outside the record store to buy the tickets and also got some for coworkers. The coworker seats were next to us, so we had adult supervision. Story 11. Front row Bruce Springsteen. Honestly, I went with a friend and had never heard his music until that night. but I have to say it's still one of the most memorable to date. Story 12, Heart. It was the first concert I ever attended. Our dad took my sister and me. We were preteens and thought it would be lame. It turned out we knew all the songs and belted them out with our dad while he smiled. I miss the old man every day. Story 13. Haha. Radiohead at the 930 Club in Washington, D.C. around 1997 or 1998. My friends and I smoked a joint in the crowd, which was a big no-no back then. We got paranoid enough to put it out before seeing the security take notice. Then we watched security look around the place for the rest of the concert trying to find the culprits. Couldn't tell you how the show was. Story 14. Lady Gaga House of Blues, San Diego, March 2009. I didn't know who she was, but my friend wanted to go for her 21st birthday. I listened to The Fame a bit and liked what I heard. The live performance still blew me away. The sheer level of singing and dancing she was doing simultaneously was astonishing. It's like I didn't realize how many pop star performances were lip-synced until I had this night to compare. Story 15. Peter Gabriel at Paris Bercy. I went there with my ex. He was a fan and I just followed him. I loved this concert. I've been a big fan of Peter Gabriel ever since. Story 16. Human Rights Now concert at Mendoza, Argentina, on the 14th of October 1988. Among the performers in the one-day-only event, Tracy Chapman, Yason Dower, Peter Gabriel, Sting, Bruce Springsteen. Story 17. Saw Bon Iver at a small venue in 2008, shortly after For Emma came out. He was extremely intimate. He even sat and tuned his own guitar. I've seen them a handful of times since, and now he gets handed a pre-tuned guitar from someone offstage. I'll never forget that show. Story 18. I have so many good ones, but I have to say that Florence and the Machine tops them all. Hearing What the Water Gave Me live is one of the most magical moments I have ever encountered. A close second was hearing Superhuman slander back-to-back Spaghetti at Lost Lands in 2019. It started to rain, and the lasers hit the rain and turned to glitter in the sky. Truly one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen, with the most amazing people around me. Story 19. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. It rained, and the mood was bad before the show. They came on, and the entire venue ascended to another plane of existence. Story 20. Elvis Costello at Beacon Theater. The public address system failed during the first song, so he sat on the edge of the stage with an acoustic guitar and played the whole show solo. Amazing. That or a surprise gig by Counting Crows at the Viper Room on a Tuesday night. Story 21. Lady Gaga. It was the first show where she performed Born This Way. The single hadn't even been released yet, and my friends had no idea what I was talking about. I've seen her multiple times, and she puts on the most magnificent performances I've experienced, but that one was extra special. Story 22. A bit of a weird one, but a couple of years ago I went to see the movie Into the Spider-Verse. The music had been removed from the audio, leaving just dialogue and sound effects. The movie was projected behind a stage on which a symphony orchestra performed the soundtrack live. It was so much fun. Since then, I've seen two other movies in that format, an 80s horror film called Demons, performed by a rock band, and the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra's take on Back to the Future. In a couple of weeks, my local symphony will be doing Star Wars, A New Hope, and I'm probably going. Story 23. Mine was Michael Jackson. It was my first ever concert. I was just a kid, but it was a pretty amazing show as I remember. Pretty good introduction to the world of music. Story 24. The sheer size and length of the Taylor Swift Eras concert was truly an experience. I hadn't watched any previews or recordings online and got lucky enough to have only paid face value for tickets. It really was a production. Best $79 I ever spent. Story 25. Two sets come to mind. One was great, another terrible. The Austin City Limits Festival, maybe 2014 or 2016. I was deep in the crowd close to the stage and I was parched. I had no water and was considering leaving Cherub's set to go get some. They had just played a few songs, and then dozes and mimosas came on. They popped a bunch of bottles of champagne on the stage, and a drop of it landed right in my mouth. I wasn't even trying to catch it. It was still cold, and it gave me the boost I needed to make it through the set, which was awesome. Run the jewels at Float Fest. Killer Mike was alright, I guess, but whoever the other guy is in their group is terrible. My friends and I were watching the set and couldn't stop laughing about how bad it was. At one point, in between songs, the short white guy rapper started doing spoken word, and it turned all sexual and weird. He was talking about inappropriate topics, and it was so cringy with no music behind it. It really dragged on and was an altogether terrible set, but it was so bad it was entertaining. My friends and I were all amused, laughing about how bad they were. Story 26. In a good way, Lacuna Coil, Volbeat, Motorhead, and Megadeth inside the San Jose State basketball stadium. It was so intimate. Everyone was amazing. It was my first time hearing Volbeat, and they knocked my socks off. I was buzzing for days. In a bad way, Metallica and I want to say Lost Prophets? I can't even remember. I am a lifelong Metallica fan and went to see them during the Madly in Anger tour. I think it was in Inglewood. The set list was tiny, almost entirely Saint Anger songs. The band sounded bad, Lars in particular. I've seen them 2 other times, and the quality difference is just insane. I don't know what was happening. I can only assume they were wiped out from the tour because it was just awful. Story 27. I have 2. Red Hot Chili Peppers with Nirvana and Pearl Jam opening, New Year's Eve 1991. Eddie Vedder climbed the speaker stack and scaffolding, and the Chili Peppers came out with flaming helmets on. The other is the Eagles. I got to see a closed tour kickoff show in the mid-90s at a soundstage on the Sony Studios lot in Culver City. There were maybe 200 people there. I'm not even a big Eagles fan, but being that close in the presence of such greatness was something else. Story 28. Styx at the Michigan State Fair. I think it was 1977. First concert jersey purchase. You should see my collection now. The next time I saw them was in the summer of 2019 with my soon-to-be wife. Both outdoor concerts. Both great. Could have done without the drunk idiot behind me at the second one. Thankfully, he brought sober friends. Story 29. That's a tough one, but I would say Talking Heads' Remain in Light tour in 1980. Their touring band included Busta Cherry Jones, who played with Robert Fripp, Brian Eno, and Gang of Four on bass, Nona Hendrix from LaBelle on vocals, and a massive African rhythm section. Music was fairly segregated at that time, especially on the radio, and Remain in Light, which was loosely based on Fela Kuti's Nigerian Afrobeat, crossed racial lines in its appeal. The audience was a wonderful mix of people who danced in the aisles to the extent that the fire marshal threatened to shut the show down repeatedly. It was thrilling. Story 30. The most fun I've had is seeing Flogging Molly in a small theater. Their energy is so good to begin with, it could fill an entire stadium. Condensing that into a small and intimate venue made for the absolute best atmosphere. I ran around the entire time singing, crowd surfing, and chugging beer, as did the rest of those on the floor level. I even ended up being tossed onto the stage at one point, giving the band a cheers. They were drinking Guinness and diving back in. I actually saw them twice there, and it was equally amazing both times. This was 20 years ago and so far hasn't been topped. Story 31. Fleetwood Mac, 2013. Christine was the only one missing, and I cannot believe how many encores they did. So many times, I stopped singing along just to sit with my eyes closed and immerse myself, intentionally creating memories. It was easily the best concert I have ever been to, and I'll never forget that night. Story 32. Been a few. Lollapalooza won the night of the riots at Great Woods. Saw Pearl Jam play for like 20 people at a college radio studio in 1991. Fish Halloween 1995, The White Album, and my first Grateful Dead show. Story 33. Back in college, I won front row tickets to see Lady Gaga. During the show, my nose started bleeding badly, thanks to anxiety. She literally stopped mid-song, got me a tissue from backstage, and asked if I was okay. Most embarrassing yet amazing moment ever. Story 34. Rammstein, I've never seen anything that compares with the show they put on. The fireworks, the music, the costumes, and the cannons spraying the crowd. I made my friend come with me as we had moved across the country about 6 weeks before, and we didn't know anyone. That night cemented our love for live shows, and we have been chasing the high for almost 3 years. But nothing compares to Rammstein. Story 35. Spiritualized at Coachella in 2008. They performed their acoustic mainline set with Jason playing guitar, I forget the other musician playing the piano, and 3 girls singing vocals along with a small orchestra of 3. There wasn't a big crowd in the tent, so I was able to get quite close to the stage. It verged on a religious experience at times. I'm sure I saw someone propose to their girlfriend. Story 36. Cat Stevens, also known as Yusuf, performed in 2015 or 2016 at the Ryman in Nashville. It was an anniversary tour for the T for the Tillerman album, which he played in its entirety. He only visited 10 cities in the United States, all at venues with less than 3,000 seats. I'm in Florida, and the 2 closest venues were Nashville and Washington, D.C. It was an incredible show with wonderful staging, featuring a little house with a moon and a chimney emitting smoke, amazing musicality, and every single person there sang every song with him. Jack White joined for Wild World, and I FaceTimed my daughter during the encores so she could watch and sing with us. Kat was in really good voice and shared wonderful anecdotes and stories about each song. It was a serious bucket list show. Story 37. The first time I saw Slipknot, I had a real, they're right there in the room with me, fangirl moment in the middle of about 5,000 people. All Hope Is Gone tour with Joey and Paul. It was Corey's birthday and he did a song in a ridiculous K-cap. The second time I saw Slipknot, Joey and Paul were no longer there. But I had meet and greet tickets. Met 5 of the 9, I was on the barrier all night and got a Ripped Corn set list as well. That time was Jonathan Davis's birthday and they brought a cake out for him. Hella mega tour where I finally saw Green Day, supported by Weezer and Fall Out Boy. After the Revolution Radio tour got cancelled, while I was outside, finally getting to see them and being at the barrier after a long day and mad rush over the field. Security gave me a Green Day plectrum too. Rammstein in Dublin last year. Leaving the United Kingdom for the first time in 23 years, exploring Dublin and seeing all the Rammstein t-shirts in the city that day too. The heat in the queue was so much that they brought an ice cream van around. Being in the fewer zone, seeing and feeling the heat from all the pyro and that moment where you think Till is missing your part of the crowd with the cannon until he comes back for the last chorus and you're covered